Okay, guys. Hello, Circle Healing Network with Robin McClendon. And I wanted to come back real quick because I've been doing a lot of thinking about this whole Mandela Effect, of course, as we all have. And I definitely appreciated all of you guys' comments. There were so many comments, a lot of things that were thought-provoking. I haven't responded yet. I will, though, because I've been in between a lot of different projects, and I have another YouTube channel. Actually, I just finished taping that one, and that one's on more to do with balancing our bodies, our chakra systems, you know, how to become more balanced spiritually to deal with this wild and wacky, crazy world that we got going here. So that's over at Ask Dr. Ilya and Robin. So if you want to check it out, please do. But here at Circle Healing Network, so, okay, this is probably going to end up being a couple videos because I'm trying not to make it really long, because I know sometimes you guys just want, like, let's get to the point. If you're like me too, sometimes I don't mind long videos, actually. I can look at some for a couple of hours if they're interesting. And then some of them you just want to get right to the down and dirty. So let me share with you what I've been thinking, and then it'll give you time to do a little bit of research yourself and give me your feedback. But the thing that's been bothering me about this Mandela effect are a few things. So I'm gonna be doing some reading here. So excuse me if I'm looking down or looking away from the camera, but gotta read this. Okay, so one of the things that's been getting me is this whole idea of the timeline, the time continuums, you know, this whole idea that we all are from the old earth. If we remember the Berensteins, we're in the E group, we're in the A group, then you were already here in some kind of way. Our old earth collided with your earth, and we're all stuck here. And nobody has a memory of this collision. We don't have a memory of going to sleep and waking up, and even things being somewhat different. I mean, I don't know. Plus, I'm also a believer that there's no really such thing as time. I mean, we have time because we've got stuck in this continuum where it was a construct in this matrix, and we're living out of it. But I think there's been a lot of work done around time where people have shown that there really is no such thing as time. And people who just had even simple ayahuasca experiences, that seems to be a big common denominator, that, oh, you realize there's no such thing as time. You know, you really see that this is just a big play. You know, we're actors on the stage, and you really see what the continuum really is about. I haven't done ayahuasca, so I don't know personally, but I know people personally have, and I also know people who talk about it. So you have to have time in order for us to collide and have these time continuums and all of that. So that's my first problem. My second problem is that we all have these various ways of remembering it. Okay, cool. We do remember things all differently, but if time is static and it is like, you know, like it's something we can depend upon, then surely we'll remember things differently, because that's just like telephone, old game of telephone, or if all the three of us are at an accident, we're going to focus on those things that hit our own energetic and our emotional fields. But overall, you do walk away with generally the same story. So yeah, we could have various ways of remembering it, and that's okay, but it still kind of sticks with me a little odd. You know, this is kind of like a bothering point for me. And then the fact that, okay, this whole effect is named after Mandela, who spent half of his life in prison, number one. So all of us could have remembered him dead for real, right? I mean, like, when you really think about it. I followed his work, and I remember when he was still in jail and his wife, Winnie Mandela, was traveling around the world. I actually saw her in a lecture hall when he was actually in prison, and she was still doing his work. I mean, so I knew he was in prison, but he was in prison a long, long time. So, you know, we could have all remembered him as being dead and then find out he wasn't, or there could be some misinformation around it, right? So if you think about the people that were like that, Muhammad Ali, you know, he was, after being diagnosed with Parkinson's and suffering from it, I mean, he was out of the limelight a lot. I mean, he showed up, but he was out a lot. And so you think a lot of the actors and people like that, there were people who we could have just forgotten or had misinformation on anyway. So let's just say we'll put that aside. Now listen to the things this is popping up in. Lots of advertising, loads and loads of advertising. The way we remember products, the way we remember jingles, the way we remember lots of stuff that has to do with products. And most of that stuff came to us over TV, as well as, you know, magazine ads, newspaper ads, all that kind of stuff. And then we talked about the deaths, you know, so deaths of people who you don't see every day, who are not on television every day, who are not in the mainstream every day. Well, you don't know them anyway, so they could kind of be chalked up as dead, or you could be told they're dead and then they weren't. I mean, that's a gray area too. And then you have popular icons, like the piece I did on the Mona Lisa, or like the Berenstain Bears, movies, Luke Skywalker, or, you know, Life is Like a Box of Chocolates, you know. These are all sort of popular things that everybody knows. So those are easy targets for this Mandela effect. And then the Bible. Okay, the Bible is one thing. Everybody who's Christian, I mean, and since Christians are, I think, make up like, I want to say it's like a third of the religions on the planet, and I think the Muslims are after that. So that's a whole bunch of people to be remembering something about the Bible. So that's a target too. Okay, so what am I getting at? What do I think is going on? I've entitled this video, They Live and the Mandela Effect, Let's Use Plausibility. I'm a big believer in being plausible. I mean, I could be far out like the next person, and I like exotic, you know, concepts and different things. But at the end of the day, I'm always going to first come at this thing sort of like what makes sense here? And then kind of if the exotic is compelling enough, then I'll go down that rabbit hole and let's see what's going on with that. So I can believe in the far out like the next person, but I really don't believe that everything that we are encountering is as far out as some of us, including myself, sometimes would like to speculate. So it got me to thinking that the Mandela effect probably is not that far out. So let's bring it back in and think about this. So where I'm going with this is hypnosis. Okay. Let's just toy with this idea. I'm throwing this out here because to me, I got so many great comments and people sharing their experiences and their thoughts with me. You know, I figure let's just make it a conversation, because how about hypnosis? Hypnosis is one of the things that would allow the Mandela effect to be experienced the way it is with us. In other words, you know, we can be hypnotized. People can be hypnotized to walk on burning coals and experience them as ice cubes and not even have blisters on their feet. I mean, hypnosis is incredible. So, you know, we've already experienced from the 60s and the 70s the whole idea of subliminal programming, and it was done in a more archaic form, you know, with remember back in the days when we discovered that the ice cubes had the word sex in them, or it had, you know, a skull in it, or it had some kind of subliminal message on the ads of the liquor advertisements that would get us to connect sex and lust and all of this with a bottle of, you know, rum or something. So, you know, I remember when I first came, I'm like, oh my God, they're actually trying to advertise, they're using subliminal, what is this, you know? So certainly we've come a long way since that was introduced into our concept. So what they could be doing right now is insane compared to ice cubes on a wine glass ad or something like that. I mean, think about it. So I started thinking about hypnosis and that with the gypsy spell. So we know the gypsy spell is that if you can get a person, if you can figure out how to get 3 yeses out of a person, you can continue to get yeses out of them. And so I'm thinking it's a combination of a little bit of hypnosis. We got a cocktail here. We got a Molotov cocktail that's been being handed to us. We have a little bit of gypsy spell, a little bit of hypnosis, you know, a little bit of being in a trance and a coma, sitting in front of TV all the time, having the cell phones up all the time, being on the computers all the time. We have all kind of plasma technology and EMFs and everything just constantly bombarding us. There's subliminal signals going on all the time. So we don't really know to what extent we're hypnotized or not. So let's just ponder this. Let's just say it's hypnosis of some sort. And some groups of us are being hypnotized to remember certain things one way. Some of us, depending on where we were at a particular time, remembered events a different way. And I'm not to discount, because I know some people have some really, really strong memories of seeing various funerals. And so, you know, I'm not discounting any of this, because I have my own strong. I shared the experience of the Berenstein. I know that I saw this and looked at it on TV and stuff. So, but TV's a signal too, remember? And so through hypnosis, we can be made to believe that we remember things that maybe we don't, or maybe it was a mass hypnosis and we all do remember seeing funerals and crying, or being upset over losing some iconic figure, right? But it doesn't necessarily mean that it happened. So I was sharing this with my significant other, and I was saying, hey, you know, this is what I'm thinking. How about hypnosis? Because he's my guinea pig. Like, can you imagine having to deal with me every day after a long day at work? And I'm like waiting for you to come in. Hey, I'm pouncing on you like, what do you think about this idea? So anyway, when I shared it with him, he was like, you know, Raman, that reminds me of that movie, They Live. I don't remember They Live. Honestly, I don't. It came out in '88. It was in the theaters evidently for just a few weeks. It was snatched out. It's a John Carpenter movie, and he was infamous for Halloween. He also directed, what was the car? Christine, that horror movie. He's a big horror movie guy. And he's done a whole list of movies. But so evidently he's a political activist as well in his movies. He's made some that fell in that category. And so They Live is one of them. So first of all, when you get a chance, please find They Live on YouTube. I'm gonna put some links beneath this video for the ones that I watched. One of them was a guy analyzing it, and it was really good because it's about an hour long, but he goes through and analyzes it. I did actually find a copy that I could see from start to finish, but it had Russian subtitles. It seems like most of them, either they want you to pay to watch them, or they're blocked. Interestingly enough, you just can't, it's like, you'll see when you go to look at them, there'll be a lot of copies, but you'll be able to find some that, I'll leave the two links for the one that I saw. The guy that analyzed it was really, really good. So what John Carpenter was trying to get us to see in 1988 was some of the very things that we're experiencing in this Mandela effect. So I'm going to do, I'm gonna go through it real quick for you guys, just maybe enough to spark your interest here. And then go check it out, because, you know, I'm feeling, you know, the other thing too, before I read some of this, is that I've talked to some of my friends that live in other countries, and interestingly enough, this is not happening in some of the other countries. They're not having products changing names and memories of this or that or the other. How's that? I mean, like if World A collided with World B, we brought Europe, Eastern Europe, and Western Europe with us. Okay, we brought Australia with us, even if it's in a different place on the map. It came with us. So it seems like some of these, I won't say Australia, because Australia, it seems like English-speaking countries are experiencing this because of the English language. But there's a lot of other countries, like I was asking a friend of mine, and she was saying, well, if you change one word in our language, you didn't change the entire word. You can't even do that. It would be impossible. We would definitely know that it wasn't no Mandela effect, that this thing was changed. And so some of the people I've asked about are very, you know, on top, they're very well aware of the current paradigms, the whole matrix. they're actually doing some very compelling work of their own on a lot of the topics regarding the Matrix. They ain't heard about they've heard about the Mandela effect, but not in their country, only as a phenomenon that we're experiencing. So that's what got me to thinking, wait a minute, then how could it be the Mandela effect? I mean, think about it. So Russia came with us when this happened. Okay, so that's what made me start thinking, okay, then it's got to be something else. And this whole idea that, you know, time and all of that, well, you'd have to actually have time and operation for the idea of time continuum to be a reality in order for some of these effects also to hold weight. So They Live. I want you to guys please go check out They Live. So it's a movie about the political, social, economic, spiritual issues in America. And the main character is George Nada. Now I love the way Carpenter named these his characters, because Nada is such a it has a lot of meaning in various cultures. And I'm also just thinking about as well, so look some of that up. And but nada, like I don't believe, like no, like nodding your head, like no, you know. So that was his last name, and as opposed to them calling him George, they call him Nada. Additionally, he meets up with a guy named Frank, and you know, it's like Frank was just being Frank. He was just, you know, like to be frank about something, to be sort of like honest, open, sort of like, you know, an open book kind of guy. And but it was interesting because George, or Nada, starts off, and the movie starts off, and I'm just going to give you enough to kind of get you into it, but I'm not going to ruin it for you. He's a homeless man looking for a job. Sounds familiar. I mean, how many people, we're living in the world's best and greatest and most powerful country and economy, and half the people I know are looking for jobs, and these are people with educations and degrees and a half a dozen other things trying to find a job. I mean, so, and homeless. And by homeless, I mean, how many Americans' homes got snatched from them? I mean, people with McMansions, people with money, lost their homes. And now are either trying to start all over again, or just renting, you know, just renting a house and deciding I'm gonna wait for the market to stabilize, or trying to start all over again. But they're homeless in that all of the equity that were in their homes is gone. Gone, gone. So I thought that was interesting. And one of the things he says when he's sitting down to try to get a job at the jobs, you know, center was, you know, 14 banks were lost in 1 week, and the economy is collapsing. Ooh, ain't that something? There's also a blind preacher in there who's warning people about what's going on, and the few are listening. And because they see him as this religious zealot, you know, whatever, but he's talking that the powers that be recruited the rich and famous political leaders, and the political leaders are now our owners and masters who wish to destroy spirituality. So that sounds familiar. And in here, it's, you know, John Carpenter talks about how the public is mind controlled and hypnotized by television. Well, let's see what he's trying to say about that. He's talking about, you know, fame and fortune is king, and we know that. You know, it's always about the rich and the famous. It's all the reality shows. You know, everybody's mind is hooked around being on television and living vicariously through some famous rich person. And when you think about it, they're just actors. Most of these people are actors, and they're fake and phony. And then the rich people who are real people that you could walk up and say, hey, shake their hand, they're still trying to figure it out themselves. They're miserable. Their marriages are not more successful than any of ours. Their children cut up worse than ours. They have financial problems. They're getting thrown in jail for tax evasion. I mean, so they ain't got it worked out because they got money or fame. So that's nothing to connect with. And then it's interesting, the whole idea of now join in the idea of the Matrix. And it's interesting how when Nada first meets Frank, because they're working construction, Nada was able to get a job, walk on the job. He had some tools in his back and in his backpack and stuff, so he was able to get himself a construction job, and that's where he meets Frank. And it's almost like the way Neo met Morpheus. Very similar, strong similarities in this movie. If you're a Matrix fan like I am, you'll see the similarities immediately. And the other thing that's interesting is that they have a poor, they show the poor class, people who are poor, who are kind of living in these homeless communities together. But what was interesting is they have better family values and stronger connections. Like, because they're not looking at TV and got cell phones through their ears and all these computers and all this stuff to kind of like twist their thinking. Now, this is what's really interesting to me. So a hacker, so they're sitting in this like homeless community and they're sitting around, they got a television going. And so a hacker breaks through into the television program. They figure out how this group of people have figured out how to hack in to try to get the message across to the sleeping masses. So his role is to try to wake up the people. So he's trying to warn the people that, hey, you guys are hypnotized, you're in a trance, you know, you're indifferent to yourselves and to each other, you know, and the whole focus of society is just on the self. And so he's doing all this to wake people up. So this one guy sitting there jumps up. So every time the hacker breaks through, it gives everybody a headache. People just get like this intense headache. And so this one guy who's sitting there, he jumps up and he goes over and turns the television off and tells the hacker to blow it up his ass. You know, he's angry. He refuses to wake up. Turns out later, interestingly enough, that I won't spoil it for you, but you'll get it, that he actually plays a different role. So, but his message is, let's just stay asleep. Let's keep it safe and stay asleep. And that's what he wanted. He just jumps up and say, no, you know, it hurts to wake up. We get these headaches. So let's just stay asleep. Let's play it safe, you know. And we hear a lot of that. And also what's interesting is that many of us on YouTube deal with that as well. I mean, YouTube deals with that because you got a lot of good people putting out great material on YouTube, just really, you know, working their hearts out to just try to inform people. And either you got all the shills and the trolls jumping on and, you know, saying negative things about them and making other people think that they're stupid and crazy. And just, you know, it's all about trying to keep people to sleep. And then the shows that go, I mean, the big YouTube programs that go viral, I think a lot of them are put there in place, to be honest with you, to take attention away from smaller shows like mine and other people who are just honestly connecting in a friendly manner to say, hey, have you thought about this? So this element is very apparent in They Live. But dig this, when the TV regains transmission, there's a scene with the Pillars of Solomon falling. And this is like a replication of the 9/11. I mean, it really is two buildings, two structures. They look like pillars, but it's kind of blurry, you know. But one falls, boom, and this big plume of dust. And the other one falls in a big plume of dust. And it's all like in black and white. So it's all gray. And it looks just like that. I'm like, this was done in '88, guys. I mean, really? And all through the movie, you'll see in the background, it looks like it was filmed in LA, but they make the buildings look like these two World Trade Centers. Like in a lot of scenes where you see the skyline behind you. Tell me if it's just me, but that's what it looks like to me. It's amazing. So the news station is Cable 54. And Cable 54, the number 54 appears regularly. I haven't done a lot of research on this, and I know it comes in number 9, which means completion. So I don't know if it's all about, you know, trying to complete the new world order thing, or I don't know. I've got my views about the whole world. I mean, I know that they're trying to do it, but I don't really believe it's going to happen. I think we're all way too smart for this, and too many people are saying, hell no, I ain't going to take no more. You know, that old chant. So from civil rights days and all that, and we used to chant that. But so what's interesting is that if on this particular documentary that I'm going to show you, this appears between 11 minutes and 50 seconds, between 12 minutes and 30 seconds. So if you want to get right to seeing those buildings crash, please do. But I suggest that you look at all of it. So the hacker breaks through again, and he talks about it, that this is a dismantling of the sleeping middle class, that, you know, we're trying to wake everyone up. Let me see. So, you know, it's just a constant distraction away from what's really going on. He also says, you know, that the viewers are cattle bred for slavery. And then there's a big sign that says, they live, we sleep. This is also interesting. At one point, the police, I mean, it's really heavy police state going on in here. I mean, they're just coming in, they're billy clubbing the hell out of everyone. They just come in and bulldoze people's neighborhoods down, and, you know, the SWAT teams and this and this and all this over militarization of the police force shows up just to get rid of 2 people and stuff like that. And so it's an example of overuse of force to, you know, to get something done. But so this one scene when they come in and they just bulldoze all of the people's houses and stuff down, it reminded me of 2008. It was just a sophisticated bulldozing of people's homes when so many people in America lost their homes. I mean, these are homes people had a long time. They had equity in them. People still had jobs. They were working. But you have things like the LIBOR scandal that made your mortgage go from $1,800 to $4,000. Who the hell? And then they, oh, well, you should have known. You signed on the dotted line. Well, how the hell would you think that your mortgage would double? I mean, give me a break. You know, what really pissed me off about that, without going on to this LIBOR scandal and the whole banking, people taking homes getting taken, was that, you know, you went to you hired a realtor who you paid because he got a commission for selling you this daggone house. The settlement company and the bankers and what have you, they got their commission for doing all the paperwork and explaining to you all of this. And, oh, don't worry about reading that. This is what it means, all of that. So all these people you saw as authorities in their field, right? But yet when everything happened, all you ever heard on the news and everybody repeated over and over, well, they should have known. People should have known. People should have known. You know, you should have known that, you know, you should have read it. You should have known you couldn't afford it. You should have known. You should have known. No, you shouldn't have known. Because that's just like when you go to a doctor and you pay a doctor and he says, oh, you need a knee replacement. So you get a knee replacement. You know, you might go get a couple other opinions, but at the end of the day, if 3 doctors say you need a knee replacement, what you going to think? You're going to think, I need a knee replacement. Now you get the knee replacement. Do you really want to hear, oh, you should have known that you didn't need a knee replacement. Oh, you know, they messed your knee up. Hell, well, let me just go to medical school. And while I'm at it, let me go to legal school too, so I can be a lawyer, a doctor, and a daggone Indian chief. I mean, you know, like, you got to be it all in America now because you can't trust anybody, supposedly. Okay, Wusa. I know I'm getting on a little rant there, sorry. But that really just got me, because no, people have various jobs. We all have our areas of expertise. And the way American system and the capitalistic system is supposed to work is that if you hire a person to do a job and they show they're credible at it, you're supposed to be able to rely somewhat on the knowledge that you're paying for. Isn't that how that works? I mean, we all have to be tax accountants and everything to make sure if the IRS said, oh, well, you had the taxes done. Oh, well, they did it wrong. Oh, you're bad. I mean, yeah, that does happen. But generally, the tax accountant has signed their name too, so they have some kind of culpability in having done your taxes wrong. So to me, other things should work like that. Okay, so back in 2008 when this happened, people lost their houses. So to me, this scene is like, it's amazing how much it looks like that same kind of thing that would just, I mean, people's houses were leveled. And it also looked like a lot of what happens in other countries when we go in and we just, you know, decide that, you know, we got to go in and wage war against this country because they're doing this and they're doing that, and we in America, we can come fix it. And we just level their homes, we bomb, we destroy, we kill in the name of freedom and helping. So there's lots of helicopters throughout this thing. You know, the whole idea of surveilling the neighborhoods. There's even a drone in here. Yes, with a camera. Flying around, watching what people are doing. Deep. So Nader finds these glasses I won't tell you about how it got to be glasses. You'll get that piece. But what's interesting is he says, so he puts them on. Guess what? He can see the real world now with the glasses on. And he looks around them, and there's like billboards, and there's magazines, and everywhere you look, like there's a billboard, and it has some computer technology stuff on, like it's advertising a company or something, it looks like. But when he puts the glasses on in big black letters on a white background, it says obey. So like when he looks around, he's shocked, because then everything is like obey, consume, stay asleep, watch TV, buy, submit, like all is like everywhere. It's like really incredible. And then he looks at the people, and all of a sudden he can see the aliens among them. He can see the ones who are like sort of like the aliens, and he likens the aliens to not like the Greys or anything, but like really to we could call it the Illuminati, we can call it the powers that be, the shadow government, the banksters, who the people who are really running this thing. We don't need to be worried about no aliens. And there again, here's this whole thing. People were sitting around waiting for disclosure, waiting for Obama or Putin or someone to tell us about the aliens. Well, first of all, if you've been around long enough, you pretty much know there's got to be some life on some other planets. That's just logical. There's got to be some extraterrestrial or non-terrestrial life. So that's not something you got to wait for somebody to tell you. A. B. My thing, if they were really malevolent, like we're made to believe and be all fearful of these Greys and this thing and that thing, don't you think they would have already taken us out? Why wait for us to be technologically advanced to then come in and try to take us out? That don't even make sense. Considering, I remember from the time I was a little kid, my favorite Martian and all this, all that. Martians and all this stuff ain't new. Spaceships ain't new. Lost in Space, Star Trek, The Outer Limits, the Land from Beyond. I mean, come on. So that's when we barely even had a TV set that worked. I mean, I remember going to people's houses. We didn't have this on our television, of course. But I mean, I went to people's houses, and you had a black and white. The way they made a color television is they actually rolled down this film that was red on top, green, blue, yellow, and taped it to the TV set to have a color television. Do you know how many homes in America had a color TV set that looked like that? Am I like talking about Mandela Effect? Any of y'all remember that? I mean, like chuckle. That was hysterical. But people swore they had a TV set that was color. So that would have been the time to take us out. Them Greys could have looked down on us and said, look at these clowns. They think they're looking at a color TV set. Let's go blast them now. Take them out. Take their planet. So I don't believe that we need to be fearful of Martians and aliens and Greys and all that kind of stuff. I just think it's a part of the made up, hypnotic, trance-like state that we're to be in. And so anyhow, so the sunglasses were really cool. And there's a lot of points in there that the guy that analyzes it breaks it down. There's so much. There's satellites that are all overhead, hypnotizing the people, causing them to sleep. Women are depicted as only being concerned with beauty, etc. Sexuality. Oh, there's a good scene in there as well where he talks about that the religious indoctrination was hugely connected to the dollar. The whole idea that, the faith in the dollar had to do with the supernatural power of our belief in God. And, the whole idea that even on the money, it's in God we trust, is so connected to our belief that money is a good thing. And I remember even as a kid thinking, because as I told you guys before, I grew up in the church. We went to church every day of the week. I swear to goodness, it seems like that. But I remember sitting there, and the most misquoted quote is, what is it? The love of money is the root of all evil. Well, we know that it really is that no, money is the root of all evil, but the love of money is the root of all evil. People say, oh, the money is the root of all evil and all that. Well, and I used to always think when I saw the dollar bill, then why is it in God we trust on the dollar bill, if this is supposed to be so bad. It was always confusing for me. But anyway, so yeah. So when he looks at the money with his glasses, it says something like, you're reading it here. This is your God. It actually says, this is your God, when he looks down at his hand with these dollar bills in it. So definitely check out They Live, because there's a lot of concepts in there right now that's reminding me of things that we can use to analyze this Mandela effect. Are we being hypnotized, guys? You know, is this just another diversionary tactic? Is this just another exotic ploy to get us all caught up? I mean, it's the flat earth, then it's the round earth. I mean, wasn't the flat earth one of those little diversionary tactics that came up, what, 1,000 years ago, you know, when people believed that the earth was flat, then they had to believe it was round. Now we've been believing it's round. Now we got to go back to believe it's flat. And it's amazing how compelling both sides' arguments are. So it always amazes me how compelling these arguments are. I mean, I looked at the flat earth stuff and I'm like, wow, I mean, they making some good points here, you know, and then the round earth, some good points. So, you know, what is it? So it seems like there's always something to get us, our energy all wrapped up in, and get us confused and it's like it's fracturing us. It's like you're fracturing the mind. So like all humanity is one mind, right? But if through hypnosis and all this trance, enough that we're all in so many different places, we can't even come together and say, oh, that's right, we're trying to save ourselves and the planet, you know? So it had me to think also about the Truman Show. Very many similarities there, you know, just being trapped in a fake world, the mass media, and the consumer culture. Because I think a lot of this Mandela effect has a lot to do with consumer culture. A lot of it has to do with consumer culture. And we know that's been manipulated. So, you know, it makes me think about, and, you know, and in the Truman Show, one of the things they say that media doesn't distribute information any longer, and the media doesn't tell us any longer stuff that's really happening. It creates it and shapes it and then feeds it to us. That's why so many people think that so many of these events that happen are false flags. And a lot of people spend a lot of time proving that things are false flags. Well, if they're making it and shaping it, it could be something to that as well. I don't know. I'm just saying. So, so, you know, the end of the movie, or the Truman Show, because I jumped from They Live to the Truman Show. Sorry, guys, but I think you might have followed that transition. You know, so it's about, so the end message on the Truman Show is to find truth in lies and confront our fears. Because the mass media is only designed to put fears in front of us. It's fear of something. It's fear of getting cancer, fear of getting sick, fear of taking the medicine that gives us cancer because our behind will fall off. You know, we got so many daggone symptoms and we lose, you know, we'll lose an eyeball, but at least you won't have cancer. Or, you know, there's grays, there's aliens out there. You know, we got to wait for the government to disclose to us that they're there, but they're going to protect us. Or the earth is flat now, we're going to fall off again. So we got to worry about, are we going to ride to the end and fall off somewhere? I mean, you know, let's think about it. Now we got the Mandela effect. We don't even have our senses about us. We're all going crazy here that some of us remember fruit. Some of us remember F-U-R-T, some are F-R-O-T. Some, you know, like, think about it. But this can be very easily accomplished through hypnosis. And we'll swear that we swear that we swear that this is how it was. And then you hypnotize different groups of people different ways. And then they all remember stuff differently. And now we all think we're either all crazy or we're all in this together, but we can't even think straight enough to work ourselves out the box. So look at the Truman Show again if you haven't, because that's a good one, because he gets the hell out of Dodge. He figured it out. And I say there's something to figuring our way out of this thing back into normalcy, because this is not normal. And of course, we all are very familiar with the Matrix. And of course, there's so much symbology in that one as well. So anyway, tell me what you think. I know this is a departure from what a lot of people have been saying, but I just don't think two Earths collided, guys. I just don't think. Because if we left the old Earth and now this is supposed to be the new Earth better, I don't see people acting any different. People are still crazy out here and throwing you the bird when you change lanes and you gave them 5-car lengths and they were going 30 miles an hour, some kind of way. That wasn't enough for them to be able to allow you to merge. I mean, you know, when you think about it, this don't seem like utopia. So if I'm gonna spend all this time coming from another planet with all of my knowledge about me, I'm thinking I should be trying to get to utopia, not the same place, you know. And there's been a lot of people putting out sophisticated string theories and, you know, like the focusing all, you know, electromagnetic waves focusing in on, and that's how time continuums will change. I'm not saying no, but I'm just saying, let's just look at plausibility. Let's try to look at what is the most rational thing. Like with the Mona Lisa. Yeah, I mean, you know, she could probably be looking just the same as we all saw her, but with some kind of way, we got the impulses to start seeing her smile. So we're seeing it like that. I mean, I studied art. I can tell you she don't look the same as I remember her looking. But how many scalar waves have I come in contact with? How much many electromagnetic fields have I come in contact with? You know, how many pulses from my cell phone and from this computer have I come in contact with? Somewhere along the line, something could have come into me and caused me to think differently about the Mona Lisa. I am still Robin. I still live on planet Earth in America. You know, I still have my mind about me and I have a damn good memory. Those things I know. And to what point I have been a product of mass conditioning, I'm sure I have. We all have. What we have to do is figure out how to turn it off and how to keep our wits about us so we don't go off on a deep end about this thing, and we can keep our energy coalesced so we can actually do some good for ourselves, for our family, for our communities at large. So anyway, I'm gonna sign off with that. I'll be back down the rabbit hole working on some more of this because I have a whole bunch of notes here. But I wanted to get this out because I wanted to share this with you guys and get your feedback. And maybe, you know, if we can get the conversation moving in a direction that's going to help us figure it out, like Truman Burbank, you know, maybe we can find that backstage door and exit this matrix and find, you know, home sweet home again. All right, guys. Love you. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for your comments. And we're going to figure this thing out. All right.